I want to show you do and does. Yes, I know that it's confusing. Do and does are auxiliary verbs that we must use with the base form of the verb in order to make a question. Yes? Also, we use them for confirmations, and I will show you that eventually. But for now, to begin with, I want to show you this. For example, in Spanish, I say, ¿Dónde vivo? Yes? And it's a question. ¿Dónde vivo? ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde viven? ¿Dónde vivimos? Yes? But I know that this is a question because I have an upside down question mark immediately. In English, if I have do and does immediately, I know that this is a question. And I know that it's a question when it starts with where, why, when, etc. Yes? Because these are question words. Yes? Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. The question says, where do you live? And the answer says, I live in Mexico. I live in the United States. Wherever you live. Yes? What? I forgot my what. Sorry. Here we go. What language do you speak? I speak Italian. I speak French. I speak Portuguese. Whatever language it is, yes? But when I go to does, for he, she, and it, this is going to change. What language does he speak? He speaks Italian, Portuguese, French, English, yes? And here, it's necessary for me to add the S at the end, because if I say, he lived, él vivo, él vives, él vivimos, él viven, no, él vive. So in Spanish, where I have 5 forms of this verb, in English, in the present tense, in Spanish, where I have 5 forms of this verb in the present tense, in English, I have 5 forms in total. I have no more than 5. In Spanish, there are 5 just in the present tense. And in Spanish, I don't have to say, ¿Dónde vives tú? I can say, ¿Dónde vives? Because you are integrated in this verb. Vivimos. We are integrated into this verb. But in English, I cannot do that. In English, if I say, ¿Dónde vivo? This comes out to where I live. And now it's not a question. If it said, where do I live? Now it's a question. Where do you live? Now it's a question. But if I say where you live, that's not a question in English. It's a question with this auxiliary. And I have to use the auxiliary because I don't have 50 forms of the verb. So when I say she lives, ella vive. She live, ella vivo, ella vives, ella vivimos, ella viven. No, ella vive. So live is vivo, viven, vivimos, y viven. And vives is, I'm sorry. Back up a little bit. So live in Spanish is vivo, vives, viven, y vivemos, y vivimos. And lives is vive. And you would never say, ellos viven, right? No, it's not correct. And this in English does not change. Yes, this, because of this, In Spanish, I can say, ¿tú dónde vives? ¿Vives dónde? ¿Tú? ¿Dónde vives tú? And tú, I can put you wherever I feel like it. Not in English. Why? Because I don't have this. And I don't have 50 forms of the verb either. So I use an auxiliary. And with the auxiliary, I always I use the base. No auxiliary, no base. Yes? And if I'm going to erase this now, because I'm going to show you how this does, how this does with the auxiliary, how this works. Positive, I live. Positive, I speak. Positive, I do. Positive, he lives. He speaks. He does. Those are all positive. In the negative, now I need my auxiliary. Oops. Sorry. He doesn't. He doesn't live in Mexico. She doesn't live in Mexico. It doesn't live in Mexico. We don't live. We don't live in Paris. And now it's negative. So in the positive, there's no auxiliary. Here's my S. When I have an auxiliary, here's my S. And this auxiliary must change according to the subject, because this auxiliary is also a regular verb. What do I mean by auxiliary? I know of one in Spanish, right off the top of my head, is the auxiliary poder. Yes? And we know that in English this is can, right? So I can say can, right? In English, I can say, I can speak, I can swim, I can write, I can read. Yes? He can swim, he can say, he can read. And now my auxiliary does not change. Why? Because I will never say he can. ¿Puedes poder? No. No. ¿Puedes nadar? Yes. So this auxiliary, the form of the verb can, will not change. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it will never be used again here. Do will be used again. Do is also a regular verb. Anytime you use the auxiliary can or the auxiliary poder, you always need another verb. And it will never be the same verb. I can, no. I can poder, no. Puedo poder, no. I can swim, I can read, I can say, but I cannot can. I can do, but I can. When it's a question, then we switch this around. We invert this, just like here. Question, do you? Answer, I do. Question, can you? Answer, I can. Can you do? Can you do? Can you do what? Can you, we wouldn't do a cake. Can you do the cake? Okay, I'm listening to your questions here in my headphone, but I'm also recording this because I wanna put this on my channel for the English. Okay. Yeah. So if you're watching this, yeah, you can comment and like it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm so tired of the way people speak. You're slaughtering both languages. Okay, here we go. Can you do the cake? No, we don't do a cake. We make a cake. And this right here, we're going on a tangent now, but this right here is another confusion in Spanish, because in English I have make and do, and in Spanish I only have hacer. And there's a difference between make and do. When I make it, I prepare it, or I invoke it, or I cause it to happen. If I do it, lo hago. And that's what this is. This is to fabricate. And this right, yes? When it's, okay, that's it right there. That's all you do. Can you work? This is all we do. That's exactly right. You got it. Can you work? Can you sleep if the dog is barking? Can you eat cilantro? Some people can't. I love this stuff. Can you help me? Okay, so this is all the base form of the verb used with the auxiliary. And this is always a question. Why? Because it starts. Your question? No, go ahead. Cuando es una pregunta irónica. Can you do? Oh, yeah, you would do it like that? Yes, yes, yes. If it's a sarcastic question and somebody's poking you, you know, can you do it? You would just put the intonation, can you do it? And then this is what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to change the form of this. If I'm trying to, I don't know who you're talking to, but can you work? Can you do it? And now that's the irony of it. Ha ha ha, you can't speak right. Can you do it? Yes, I figured that was where you were going with this. Yes, yes, yes. But anytime we use the auxiliary can, we always use the base. And this auxiliary can is not going to change with the subject like do and does changes. Why? Because I will never use can as a base verb. It's not a base. It's not a base even in Spanish. This is strictly an auxiliary verb, and I must use it with another verb. Here's your example right here. Let's take away the do and does, and let's go with can. Where can you live? Where can you speak? Where can you do that? Why can you live there? Why can you speak? When can you live there? When can we? When can they? When can he? Yes, and now can will not change because can will never be here. And this auxiliary, I'll show you some more. Will, would, could, should, might. And I'll give you some examples. Would he, and let's move this because that's a verb that's more specific to, it's more specific. Let's get a more general verb. Go. Would you go? Irías. Tú. Would we go? Iríamos. Would she go? Irá. Ella. Would he go? Irá él. Would he speak Italian? Hablaría él italiano. Could he speak Italian? ¿Podría hablar él italiano? Could you speak Italian? ¿Podrías tú hablarlo? Can you? ¿Puedes? Will you? ¿Lo harás? Will you go? Irás. Will you speak? Hablarás. Will you do? Harás. Will we go? Iríamos. I'm sorry. Would. Would you go? Irías. Would we go? Iríamos. Would they go? Irán. Irían. I'm sorry. Will you go? Irás. Will I go? Iré. Will she go? Irá. Will they go? Irán. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm sorry, it is a question. I'm sorry, what was your question? Will you go? That's a question. You will go is an answer. You will go, irás. They will go, irán. He will go, irá. He will do, hará. I will do, haré. Future. Yes? Will you go to Japan? Okay, hold on. I'm adjusting this camera. And I do hope that everybody who sees this video understands that I'm in class right now. So if I'm listening to you, it's because you're a priority at the moment. But I would love to have their questions in the comments. Okay, so your question again, please. If I want to say yes. Okay, tú vas a ir. Will you go? Will you go to Japan next year? No, it's future. It's a question. No, an affirmation. You will go. Irás. You will go. You will go. Now it's an affirmation. You will go. You will live. That's exactly right. When it's a question, that's exactly right. And that's how we go from question to answer. Hold on. Let me get more ink. I, you, we, they, he, she, and it. I, you, we, they, here, let me put it up here. Do and don't. And he, she, and it does or doesn't, positive or negative, correct? And I, you, we, they can, could, should, would, will, must, might. And all of these are some of our auxiliaries. And now you see it's turned over again. Question, can you? Answer, I can. Question, will he? Answer, he will. So we turn it over. And this is how we know the difference right away in English between the question and the answer. And we don't have this question mark in the beginning. We don't need it because this structure does not change. And I will always, always, always use the base. And this is the same as the base. And I will always use this base with the auxiliary. Can you go? Might you go? ¿Es posible que irás? Must you go? ¿Tienes que ir? Will you go? Irás. Can you go? ¿Puedes ir? Could you go? ¿Podrías ir? Should you go? ¿Debes ir? Would you go? ¿Irías? So now I'm not integrating any of these subjects into any of these verbs except for this one and these. And they're separated here. And I only make the distinction, excuse me, Lupita, we need some space. I only make the distinction with the third person singular. Because third person plural is they. First person plural is we. Second person is you. Singular and plural. You. Tú, usted, y ustedes. I, that's always first person singular. So this is my third person singular, and this is why here I add my S. And this is why here, he, she, and it, does and doesn't, and I, you, we, blah, blah, blah. I, you, we, they do and don't. I do go. I do eat. I do study. I do want, need, work. Whatever the verb is, I'm always going to use my base with my auxiliary. Where's my red? This is my auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb. Auxiliary. There we go. Always use the base with the auxiliary. This is why we need the auxiliary in English. Because this gives me, you ready? This gives me my time and my intention, which in Spanish is integrated into the verb. In English, it is not. Any questions?